Go ahead.
make it more like a regular conversation instead of making it into like a regular question like, oh, who are you? What school did you go into? Like, more into like, like let go and let's talk about architecture.
You just go like head in. You say, whatever the question you want to ask the person about architecture. You just like boom. You start it, or you start from something uh, like totally unexpected. Like, where did you get your T-shirt? It looks interesting. What does it say?
You try to bring a conversation up.
Yeah. Always like nice to break in if you don't know the person. But with you should just start right away. I don't
I've
have
known
to
you for
introduce
so long.
myself to you. You know me.
Front doors closing, slam, slam, slam. My heart's pounding.
Well, to get started today, we're interviewing architect Orhan Ayyüce. He's a architect, not first generation, from first class of Sci-Arc, Southern
Not
California.
first class. The
Sure.
first 6 years, let's
Well,
say.
he's gonna call it first generation.
First generation. Yes.
First
Yeah. Okay, you
generation.
got it. Not the first class though.
So he's
I am interviewing them.
so I have the honor to interview one of the first generations of Sci-Arc, Southern California Institute of Architects. He's also a senior writer from ArchiNet and a former professor at East LA Community College on the architecture department. So Orhan, it's a pleasure to have you once again here.
Thank you. Thank you for looking me up.
um, it's been a pleasure to be your student, former student, and thanks to you, I have developed myself so much in architecture. And now that I moved down to Mexico and started my bachelor degree in Escuela Libre de Arquitectura, and I don't know, all these years that I know you, you kind of lead me to the right path and kind of make myself develop my own ideas and my own thinking of what architecture should be or what is for myself. And let's get started. So
It's great.
tell me a little bit more about yourself besides the stuff that I know already. Like what is architecture in your own words?
Architecture is a structure of things. Architecture is more of a way to break down things, elements, and understand what they are. And then the interesting part of architecture is you put them back together. And when you put them back together, they are not the same thing because they have your input in them and your way of sorting them things out, putting them together and making them um, a building, a system, an organization, a methodology, history, um, social critique. Um, Everything is combined, and that's how I see architecture. I don't see it as a. I mean, they're architecture too, but I don't look at the building and I say, "Wow, architecture." And I try to read them. What are the things they are part of? What are the things they are talking to? What are the things they contain? And how they respond to things as a as a building or as a urban space, as a uh, part of built environment. That's what architecture is to me. And while you are doing it, while you are doing all these things that I listed, you're also designing something. You're also designing. An architect, someone always looks at these things and thinks designs. What can I do with that? It's like a writer does with words. I have all these words. What do I do with them? What kind of a story I tell? What kind of things I bring to an attention of things? So that's it. That's my view of architecture, and it might change next year. I add and I subtract. It's a continuous work for me to define architecture. I don't think we have that kind of a privilege.
No.
I think architecture just starts the minute you are born. And all these things start to happen as soon as you learn how to look, how to talk, how to walk. That's how to feel things, and I think that all those things start, in varying degrees in first uh, first 3 minutes you are born. So I think architecture is always there. We just have to look and communicate with it. So that's how it started for me in a very early age, if I can trace it. I remember things. I was 2 years old. I remember complete spaces. I remember very well that how our living room was like when I was 2 years old. I remember, not to the final detail. It was like you had a nail here, and a screw there, kind of a way. But I remember the light of the place. I remember where the windows were, where the light came in from. I remember the proportion of things. Of course, I kind of enlarged them in my mind because I was so little. But I remember my grandmother's house, which she lived upstairs, we lived downstairs. It was a beautiful old Turkish house, 2-story, and perhaps a Greek house. And I remember that place really well. And one day when I was going to middle school, the government decided they want to enlarge the street. So by eminent domain, they give a little bit money to my grandmother, and she had a little land still left. They enlarged the street, and I was going to the school, and the school was on the same street. And we were walking about a mile or so to school every day. And I remember the day that they were going to demolish all the houses, which I was born in that house. They were going to demolish that, and all the series of these beautiful old historic houses, and they were brutal. They still are. They just bulldoze things and build new. They don't have any other course either. And so I went to school. I was with a friend. On the way back, we found ourselves in this rubble of houses. They were all demolished in one afternoon, like long stretch of it, hundreds of houses, and they didn't even, there was a lot of historical details, metal doors and things like that, intricate ornamentation. Yeah. And they just throw everything away, I guess, or they were just there. They didn't make any attempt to sort it out. And I saw this whole thing. I saw architecture. I was inspired by the rubble, and I said, I want to be an architect someday, like as if for me to get back at them. I was angry, the whole thing, my childhood went into these places, and it was demolished in the name of enlarging the street for more cars. So they stayed in Sacramento for 2 years, California, and I started school at Sci-Arc. After that, I found Sci-Arc. Somebody directed me there. Esther McCoy. She was a historian. I accidentally met her in this AIA convention that I was going to go and ask around to people who know about architecture, like where I can go to school. And she directed me to Sci-Arc, and she said, just tell them Esther McCoy sent you. So I did the exact same thing, not knowing she was the most famous historian, a writer on architecture, Esther McCoy. And so that's how it happened to me. I started Sci-Arc that way from the second year, because I had some sketches I made, and they were original house design drawn in ink, imitating Frank Lloyd Wright's Mayan style, more cubicle, things like that. I'm Aegean. I'm from Mediterranean Sea. So identify with those kind of a cubicle forms. If you go to Aegean towns, they are all like that. You've probably seen the white buildings in Greek islands. Yeah. It's kind of like that in places. If it's not white, it's built out of stone, very beautiful stonework. So that's where I am from. I grew up there, and those are the things, going back to the previous question, I sucked all that stuff in. Yeah. It was great. Sci-Arc was a beautiful school, probably not so unlike the school you're going right now. It was all about the energy, and its feet was touching the ground, and it was open to everybody. It was a free school, and the tuition was very low, even those days standards, so anybody could go in. And we had a very dedicated cadre of faculty. And that included, some of the superstars of today. Frank Gehry used to teach their furniture design class, and Tom Maines, Eric Moss, Glenn Small, which was the biggest deal at the time in Sci-Arc, which the school still rides on Glenn's futuristic image of things. He was the biggest design force, influence, this futuristic face of Sci-Arc, that progressive face of Sci-Arc. And he was the one always getting published in LA Times and other magazines, and his students always doing interesting things that had to do with green architecture, sustainability, futuristic building systems, skins, ideas, utopian ideas. So he made Sci-Arc look forward, and the school had that image, and there was lots of energy in Sci-Arc because we had students coming from unexpected places, and it was very international. We had people from all over the world, Japanese, Europeans, Middle Easterns, you name it. South Americans, of course, and Mexicans. And it was a great place where all the ideas were discussed, different genre of things, anywhere from futurism to postmodernism. People like Tom Maine and Eric Moss, they were postmodernists. They were designing buildings with kind of influenced by Michael Graves and architects from that era. And later on, they changed to different styles, deconstructive styles, and all that came from there. And so there was. The school offered is small, only 150 students, and it offered a variety of things. So each type of style, let's say, the instructors had, professors had, architects. They were all working architects. Each one of them brought a particular discussion to architecture. So there was always this contention, arguing things among the students. It was very alive, very self-critical, and it allowed school to develop in a very interesting way. So this Sci-Arc was pretty much